All right, everyone, God bless you. Welcome to Pastor Jerone TV. I'm your host, Pastor Jerone. Today is a great day to be walking with God and to be in the light of the Lord. Just want to share with y'all the spirit of Jezebel is still in operation. It's still here. The spirit of Jezebel began at the Mount of Hermon, where the fallen angels are locked up. The 200 angels who rebelled in heaven are there at Hermon. And these people begin to set up temples of worship because there were certain type of spiritual energies that had drawn themselves there to try to draw from the energies of those angels who were locked up under those mountains there at Hermon. People who are Satanists gather there to try to gather, and witches to try to draw from the energies there. It's also well known that Smithsonian gathers the bones of these giants, 30-foot bones of men and women who were 30 feet tall, 20 feet, 19 feet tall. Smithsonian gather those bones and they collect them and get rid of them. But what happens after people, these Satanists and witches, whenever they find out where these bones and stuff have been discovered, they go there to that site and camp out there and do enchantments and stuff to try to draw energies there. Why? Because these beings, these Nephilim, were the sons and offspring of the fallen angels, and they're trying to get certain energies from them. Well, Jezebel's father was one of the founders of the Baal worship, and Jezebel became one of the Baal worship evangelists. What I believe that happened to Jezebel is that one of those Nephilim spirits had gotten into her and claimed her body and used her body. I believe Jezebel was pretty much a possessed woman, possessed by a spirit. The reason why that's true is because the spirit of Jezebel continued to operate even into the New Testament, all the way into the book of Revelation. Where is she at in the New Testament? She's there. Because here we have two entities in the New Testament that is a reminder of what happened at Mount Carmel. Remember, the prophet Elijah called for the prophets of Baal, these were the prophets of Jezebel, to meet him at Mount Hermon for a showdown as to whose God is the God. And after that showdown, and God showed up for Elijah, he sent fire and lapped up all the fire, burned up all the rocks, lapped up all the water, and the false prophets of Jezebel were killed. Elijah from that point was translated or taken up into heaven on a fiery chariot with fiery horses. And Elijah was telling Elisha, his protege, and all the young prophets, that I'm getting ready to leave. God is getting ready to take me, but I'm anointing Elisha in my stead. I'm going to anoint Jehu. It's going to be very important. I'm going to do a teaching on Here Comes Jehu. I'm going to anoint Jehu as the king over Israel, because during that time, Israel had split into two kingdoms. The northern kingdom, which was the larger number of tribes, and that was called the tribe of Israel. That was Israel. But the lower part had two or three, which was called the tribe of Judah, wherewith we get the term Jews. The Jews were just a small portion, but the rest of them were the Israelites up at the top. They considered themselves Israel, and the other ones they considered Jews, which was the lower portion. So, the spirit of Nephilim was operating in Jezebel because Jezebel began to operate, although she died, and she was killed at the hands of Jehu. And although Jezebel died and was killed, that spirit that was in her began to operate in Herod's wife. she began to operate in Herod's wife. And we know, because Jesus told us, that the spirit of Elijah was operating in John the Baptist. John the Baptist was called the forerunner, and he was considered Elijah. And King Herod, who was like an overseer or governor in that region to Caesar, he ended up taking his brother's wife. Well, she left his brother because his brother didn't have enough power or influence, and the spirit of Jezebel operating in her linked herself up with Herod because he had more power and influence. This is why I'm telling you, the spirit of Jezebel is operating in today's politics, and it's going to take the spirit of Elijah and the spirit of Jehu operating in the church, the spirit of God moving on us to do what Elijah did and what Jehu did to the spirit of Jezebel. But Jezebel was operating in King Herod's wife, and John the Baptist stood at the gate, which is commerce and government. He was being political. Isaiah the prophet, or John the Baptist, Jesus' cousin, was being political when he stood at the gate and King Herod came through with his brother's wife. That woman that had the spirit of Jezebel operating in her. John the Baptist looked at both of them. He looked at Herod. He said, "It's not right for you to have your brother's wife." And the spirit of Jezebel jumped up in that woman, and she looked at John the Baptist and said, "I'm gonna get you." I didn't get a chance to get Elijah because God took Elijah up into heaven on a fiery chariot. But John the Baptist, she had her eyes set on him. King Herod was as weak and watered down as Ahab was, the husband of Jezebel in the Old Testament. He was a very weak man. And the spirit of Jezebel loves for men to ascend up into the heights of power, but have weak moral character. They are weak in moral character. They will cheat on their wives. They will become homosexual. They will sell out anything for their fetish. So check out King Herod. Jezebel got her sexy daughter to do a dance while King Herod was getting drunk. That was one of his weaknesses. The other one was lust. A lot of these men, pastors, big time people who ascend to the heights and get great, they all have a weakness. And Satan knows what that weakness is. But if you turn that weakness over to God, it won't be a weakness. King Herod was getting drunk. And one of the weaknesses was getting drunk. The other weakness was women, and the other one was running his mouth. And the girl danced so seductively and just turned him on, which was weird because he's married to the woman of the daughter that's dancing seductively in front of him, and she seduced his pants off, seduced him out of his mind till he said, "Anything you want to the half of my kingdom, I'll give it to you. Whatever you want in my kingdom, to the half of it." That's crazy. You're going to give half of your kingdom away for a seductive lap dance? And when he said those words, he couldn't take them back because people heard him. And the girl went over to her mama. The girl, Jezebel's daughter, went over to her. And she asked, "What should I ask for?" She said, "Don't worry about the kingdom. I got that. I got the kingdom. I got all the religious stuff. Don't worry about none of that. But ask for the head of Elijah. Give me the head of John the Baptist on a charger." And when the girl went back to the king and said, Herod, and she said, "I want John's head on a charger." And the king began to weep, and he realized that it was his weakness that got the man of God killed. His weakness got John the Baptist beheaded. He couldn't take it back because once his word go out, he can't go back. Those people would kill him if he took his word back. Everybody heard him say out of his own mouth, "I'll give you to the half of my kingdom." And John the Baptist was already in prison, waiting for this Jezebel to come up with a way to get him. And it was done. They killed John the Baptist. So Jezebel got a chance to kill the prophet Elijah. And so, I don't know if I should do this and keep teaching or just go on to the one in Revelation. Well, in Revelation, there's two churches there right beside each other. There's a church called Pergamos, and right after that is Thyatira. Their location was right by each other. Pergamos and Thyatira. Check this out. In Pergamos, that's where the seat of Zeus was. It was a big temple. I want you to Google it. It was called the throne of Satan and the seat of Zeus. Those of you who are in those fraternities and sororities and you're making those secret vows to Zeus, you are making vows to Satan himself. Check out what Jesus said to the people at Pergamos. He said to the church of Pergamos, he says, I know you. I know your perseverance. I know your faith. He said, I know that you dwell there where the seat of Satan is. This thing was known as the seat of Satan because it had it looked like a big armchair, and it sat in a mountain overlooking the region. And this is where the seat of Satan was. Now, the devil is only a creature. He can only be in one place at one time, and that's where he chose to sit. And what I wanted to say about that was the church that was next to it, the church which was called Thyatira. Pergamos, where Satan was, and Thyatira is where Jezebel was operating in the church. And Jesus said, I love your faith. I love your patience to the church of Thyatira, to the angel or to the pastor of the church of Thyatira. I love your faith. I love your patience. He said, but I got something against you. You have allowed that woman who calls herself a prophetess to teach and to seduce my people. So the spirit, that Nephilim spirit, went from Jezebel, who married Ahab in the Old Testament, to Ahab, who married this woman who had the spirit of Jezebel in her, to now it's operating at the church of Thyatira. The spirit of Jezebel loves political power, and it loves religious power, and to teach perverse, backwards, evil, lustful things to the church. And it's very prevalent today. That dude T.D. Jakes said, when he asked about homosexuality, was it okay? He said he was evolving, said that he had evolved and that he was evolving, which was a weird thing to say. You ask me, Pastor Jerone, about homosexuality, it's a sin before God. It's an abomination. Don't do it. I'm never going to give you an answer like, I have evolved and I'm evolving. Big, nasty stink pump. But that's the spirit of Jezebel operating in the church. Listen, I've run over my time. It's hard to upload it after a certain time, so it takes a longer time. Hopefully, I can get this teaching into your hands tonight. Well, the prayer conference is coming up. Hopefully you know about that. Look it up, usapray.org, and I'll see y'all on the next video.